sorry. What light has been shed on this investigation through all of this? And Don Jr. has sent out an entire statement. I want everybody to read the entire statement because it's important. You keep cherry picking, but what light is shed on the investigation?
Make sure they pick the right one because he's changed it twice, so they have to get all of them.
Tell me what you learned.
I learned
Tell me what you learned.
that it's not true that he never met with anybody with Russia connections. I learned that it's not true that he didn't take a meeting that mattered to investigators.
And you learned that it was vague, ambiguous, completely meaningless, and a pretext for why the woman was actually there. Excuse me.
The fruit of the meeting is irrelevant to taking the meeting.
Why the woman was actually there, which was Russian adoption.
But none of that is relevant.
He added to the account of what happened in a meaningless meeting, and 3 of your colleagues were fired because they didn't change their story. They went with a story that was thinly sourced because we're always rushing to judgment.
Now it's thinly sourced.
If you can get Donald Trump and somebody around him.
We're back to thinly sourced.
No. That's
5 sources of advisors close to the president and the words of Don Jr. himself. The New York Times has 5 sources close to the White House. These are your people who are talking about this. This is Don Jr. who's talking about this.
Do you think that anything that you're talking about changed a single vote anywhere? Do you think Hillary Clinton
I don't know
lost
why your head
Hillary
has to
Clinton
go there. I want to know if Russia tried to get inside.
You've been talking about it for months.
Because you don't care if Russia was trying to get inside your campaign to affect the election.
You don't know what I care about. Why don't you ask me?
I just did. That's a question. There was a question mark at the end of it. You don't care if Russia was trying to get inside your campaign to affect the election? Question mark?
I do care. But here's what else I care about. I care about the fact that you seem to forget the Russian connections we do know about. We know Bill Clinton, not Don Jr., gave a speech in Russia for $500,000. We know that Hillary Clinton had one of the 9 votes that allowed 20% of the U.S. uranium rights to go there.
And those were all pursued and looked at?
We know that in the summer of 2016, the people who knew about possible Russian interference in the election weren't at the Trump campaign. They were in the Obama White House. None other than President Obama, John Brennan. They were informed about this. What did they do? Nothing.
Well, they did the same thing the President of the United States now did.
As did your
They wound up doing the same thing the current president did. They went to Putin. Obama went to Putin and said, stop it. And we guess one of the versions of what happened at the Putin-Trump meeting is that he said, I know you did it. Stop it. That's what Nikki Haley says. So they've done the same thing to this point.
Hey, Chris, don't you think that's a huge improvement, though, over Hillary Clinton having that G.I. Joe-looking plastic toy, Russian reset button and handing it over as Secretary of State? Didn't you feel the least bit embarrassed as an American?
I don't even know what that means.
Who talks about Russia all the time? No, I think her idea of a Russian reset and President Trump sitting down with President Putin and trying to find how these two countries can work together is a very positive development.
On cybersecurity, you think working with Russia on cybersecurity of our election is a good idea?
No, here's what I think. I think these two men meeting for 2 hours and 15 minutes on any broad range of issues. Go read what Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, who's doing an amazing job, said about that meeting. He sat in that meeting. He gave a full briefing afterwards. You can read the entire transcript of that briefing. I've internalized it. Read that. Let your viewers read it.
We have it. It just would have been nice to have an objective observer in there.
Have that.
It would have been nice to have an objective observer taking notes in there, like traditionally you do have.
Who would that have been? Who would that have been? Your colleague who, instead of covering a beautiful speech in Poland, called it fake news?
What are you talking about?
And then had to retract that, huh?
What are you talking about?
We covered this speech in Poland.
We covered this speach. We gave it full voice. We gave it all different types of perspective. I don't understand why you believe that bashing CNN is going to help.
Russia? I'm not bashing CNN.
Oh, please. That's all you guys do is bash.
CNN.
I don't understand it. I mean, thank you for the ratings.
You want to talk about you?
Why do it?
Look. Hey, Chris, I'm on CNN right now. You want to talk about you.
And I appreciate that. It's not easy to get you here.
The media want to talk about you, and I want to talk about Americans. You know why I'm in the White House? I'm there to help the millions of Americans who couldn't keep their doctor, who couldn't keep their health care plan, who are struggling with opioid addiction, military spouses who are underemployed and unemployed. I'm there to watch people like Ivanka Trump, my colleague in the White House, lead the way for this country to invest $50 million for the World Bank to start a women's entrepreneurship investment fund. You didn't mention that in the last segment. You just tried to shiv her a little bit because she sat briefly at a table where her father, the President of the United States, had
been. Which was a very unusual thing to do, by the way.
A representative had done something that President Abe's no, it's not. And Angela Merkel said it's not unusual.
To have your daughter sit in for you, representing the United States at the G20?
She's there as the senior advisor. You should be very proud she's representing the United States everywhere she goes, because she, as I just said, but you won't cover, helped get the World Bank to commit this women's entrepreneurship initiative. That's going to help women. I was a female entrepreneur for decades. It's not easy, but it's worthwhile. But you don't want to cover that.
It's just not true.
You don't want to cover the tangible thing.
Premise.
It's not true?
It's not true.
Wait, it's not true that the
we
$50
do not
million,
avoid positive stories about the president. You want the fact that we're covering the Russia investigation to mean we don't cover other things. It's not true. We spent 2 segments today talking to Mo Brooks, Republican from Alabama, about what's going on with health care, what needs to happen. And then, only then, did we talk about the Russia stuff. So it's just not fair, not true, and I don't believe it could be helpful to the president. But I believe that you are, and having you on the show is helpful to our audience, and I appreciate it very much.
Oh, we appreciate the platform, Chris. But look, I think CNN, I'm not here to bash CNN. I don't do that as a matter of course. So be fair to me. Hold on. But take responsibility and recognize that as a 24/7 cable station, I have great faith that you can cover all of the above. Mm-hmm. Instead of covering the same thing every 5 seconds, hour after hour, why can't you connect veterans with the information they deserve? Why aren't you telling the veterans of this country, because of this president and Secretary Shulkin of the VA, they now have a 24/7 hotline at the White House they can call. They are now seen as the same seamless patient through the DOD and the VA, so that they don't have to go through all this nonsense red tape of decades that treats them as 2 different patients. Why don't you tell them about the VA Accountability and Whistleblower Protection Act? Why don't you tell them about the Veterans Choice Act, that if you can't access quality, timely care as a veteran in this country through the VA, which most can, you can go access it through private care now. The president said when he was a candidate something that should animate everybody, including you, which is, if we don't take care of our veterans, who are we as a nation?
That's absolutely true.
Why don't you tell people what we're doing on health care, on jobs? 800,000 jobs created since this man took office. We talk about health care. We talk about the jobs. Okay, we had the Veterans Secretary on New Day. Thank you for watching the show. There's 220,000 jobs created in June. We talked about it when the jobs report came out. I think you can cover all of the above. We do, though. We had the VA secretary. Have you seen these polls? Listen, that say that the country, Americans want the media to move on from Russia and cover things that actually affect them. Look, can you look the people in the eye that you grew up with in Astoria and I grew up with in South Jersey, the welders, the carpenters, the hairdressers? Can you tell them right now that you're telling them everything President Trump is doing for them? Listen, $100 million committed to the apprenticeship program so we can dignify all types of careers. My conscience is clean. My mission is clear. What I do is I cover what I think matters to people. I test power and I take the consequences every damn day, and that's not going to change. Thank you for helping us do that this morning. So we're the same that way. Very quickly. So if we were in court right now and you I'm only trying to wrap you because your guys are saying you have to go, by the way, just so you know. What would, hold on. Go ahead. Hold on. If we were in court right now and you somehow survived the motion for summary judgment or the motion to dismiss. Yeah, it's a different standard, but go ahead. What exactly would be your first piece of evidence? No. What exactly would you produce as who's your first witness to the jury or the judge here? In this case, you're trying to make day in and day out. Because I still don't see the evidence. Well, first of all, you shouldn't see the evidence because let's liken it to a grand jury investigation. It's going on. We should wait for it to finish and see what they can bring out about it. That's what we should be doing. You're not waiting for anything. Look, we take the information as we get it, but we can't know the full. We can't know the full scope of the investigation. See, and that's the point. This is the last point I'm going to make. Your people are saying you have to go. This is my point. The reason the Don Jr. story matters is because you guys have been beating down the notion that an investigation into whether or not Russia was trying to find its way into the campaign to affect this election is a non-starter. It's not worth looking at. It's ridiculous. But now we know it isn't, because Don Jr., at best reckoning to him and to his cause, just got potentially set up by a potential Russian operative to have a meeting. So it isn't an illegitimate question. Wrong. It is by his own reckoning. That's what it is. He says
that he took the meeting with someone who promised him information about it. But it was what he was promised, not the delivery on the promise. It's the solicitation that's the issue, legally, ethically, and common sense-wise. She said, Chris, this is what I have for you, and that's why he said he took the meeting. That's why they're investigating.
Hey, Chris, she had nothing. And let me tell you something.
Doesn't matter what she had, it's what she promised.
I've known who Hillary Clinton is and studied her, including the last couple months of the campaign when I was campaign manager. You know where I went to find damaging, negative information about Hillary Clinton? Hillary Clinton. It was like she was like a walking loop of negative information.
Look, maybe so, but he still says he took a meeting with somebody who said she had bad information about the DNC and Hillary. He still took the meeting. He says he took the meeting on that basis. What it led to, whether he needed it, whether he could have won anyway, whether Hillary has plenty of other sources of bad information, all irrelevant.
You know he won because he won. You know she was a terrible candidate.
I have no problem with screaming and saying the legitimacy of the president. Right. Donald Trump is the legitimate president of the United States.
And you know, he also
bring it up, not me.
He also won in part because of that meeting. He also won in part because of that meeting that did have consequence, the meeting between Loretta Lynch and Bill Clinton.
That meeting mattered also. But you can't pick what you like and what you don't like. Unnamed sources that are good, unnamed sources that are bad. I'm just saying it all matters. It all has to be tested, and that's what we do. And you are a big part of helping us do it.
And you can't take a meeting that lasted 20 minutes, that is reported to have lasted 20 minutes, that produced no information that was, we're told, mainly about Russian adoption, and spin that into some kind of tale and some type of evidentiary trail.
I don't see how that is at all what I'm doing. Don Jr. changed his story.
This is why the media,
Don Jr. says he met with her because she had bad information on Clinton.
Than Donald Trump or Melania Trump or Mike Pence. This is why.
He said it.
And look, he learned nothing from that meeting.
Doesn't matter what he learned. It matters why he took the meeting.
Yes, it does.
Nope.
Yes, it does. It matters completely.
Does not matter for the purposes of the investigation.
Yep.
They're looking into whether or not Russia was trying to get inside the election. He admits he took the meeting because someone was offering him that kind of information. It matters, period. It just does.
And when Americans think of Russia today, they're thinking of the conversation between the two presidents, not the lack of collusion that no one there